Get a lot written today?
Nikki 225 futures just suspended, hitting circuit breakers to the downside.
We're getting smoked right now, by the way.
Yeah, while my wife and I were out at lunch earlier, I saw crypto was taking an enormous dump. I was like, this actually makes me bullish.
That's what I got us at open, 2250.
Down. We're gonna bounce, bro. I'm feeling fired up about it. Let's fucking go. So, it was just shit. And then the candle came out. RC bought 500,000 shares of GameStop. We got activity from Kitty. RC's Twitter's been fired too.
This is a really good position for GameStop to be in because they're flush with cash. They're trading well below fair value right now. We're still talking about a fire sale.
They really are two amazing investors.
And just, put him and Ryan Cohen together and just take over the world, man.
Thanks everyone for checking out the show. I'm Sean Fitzy.
I'm Echo.
I'm Paulie.
And this is the Echo Chamber. We had an exciting week. It had a little bit of everything in it. GameStop made $1.5 billion. RC bought 500,000 shares. And the kitty is showing signs of life. So it's a pretty exciting week. We got a lot to go over. We're down a man. We miss you already, Chuck. You could hear in the intro. He's not feeling so hot. So yeah, we'll be with just me, Echo, and Polly tonight. So yeah, how's it going, Polly?
Doing all right, doing all right. Yeah, definitely miss Chuck, but I do want to point out that we've noticed before that on weeks when we are down a man, we run the table the next week. So Chuck, we appreciate your sacrifice, and the GameStop community is looking forward to a green week.
Yeah, next week we rip. We won't look at we won't look at overnight trading right now.
Right?
I'll
Yeah,
have
it's we're starting with a handicap here, or a reverse handicap, I guess. So.
Yeah, I'll just 21.98 right now, down 6.43% in Robinhood fake trading. I'll call it now because we're down. When we're up, it's
Yeah.
after hours trading or overnight trading.
Yeah, this is
Bit-
gonna be a fake trading fake out, hopefully.
yeah, hopefully Bitcoin is way down. It's at 77,700. Yeah, we'll see. SPY ES futures opened up down 4.5%, currently down 4%. So it's going to be an exciting Monday. It would be weird for us to be green right now anyways. But yeah, you're traveling, huh, Polly? How was
Yeah.
did you go to the Final Four?
Yeah, we're at the Final Four right now, so we're in San Antonio. So that was a fun development. So was not actually planning to make this trip, but got to make the trip down to Dallas to my childhood home. Grew up in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and rode down with my parents to San Antonio. So they were going to be here for that, and they offered tickets to the game. So my wife and I were like, "Yeah, I guess we're gonna figure out how to get to Texas." So
Yeah,
we went to the games last night. Turned out to be two very good games, and had a
sweet.
wild ending to the Duke Houston game. Duke had a phenomenal choke job, and Houston had a wild comeback. So that was entertaining, and then tomorrow night we'll go to the Florida Houston national championship game, and that will actually be
Wow.
the 13th time that I have been to a national championship game. It'll be the 11th time I've been to the men's title game, and I've been to the championship game for the women's side twice. So yeah, pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I've been to a couple Western Conference finals for
oh wow.
basketball. Yeah, National League Championship Series with the Giants a couple times.
That's
I've
sweet.
been to a few, but never like championship games. So
Yeah.
that's pretty fun. It's wild that Houston is, I lived out there for a long time, and so
Mhm.
that's not. I don't know what division they're in anymore, but them going to the national championship game is huge for that college. The crowd had to have been behind them, huh?
Yeah, they were in Conference USA, now they're in the Big 12, and so the, um, they the crowd was pretty well evenly divided, like, 25% each for each school for Saturday night. But, you still had a pretty solid Houston showing from folks who could get their Saturday night tickets, but now that you've got 2 teams that have been eliminated, I would imagine that there's going to be an enormous gap fill there from Houston folks who are gonna be like, "You know what? Screw it, I'm not going to work on Monday."
Yeah. Yeah, they'll
And,
represent.
yeah, they're gonna drop plans and just fill the building on Monday. So I would imagine an enormous home court advantage for Houston on Monday. But,
Sweet.
we'll
That's
see.
cool.
But, yeah, it's been a
That's what
really fun
yeah.
trip so far. We had a really fun trip down memory lane on Thursday, especially since I had some time at my parents' house there, so,
Yeah, I saw some cool pictures. That
yeah,
was neat. You went, San Antonio is only a couple hours, like 2.5 from Houston, so, you're down over there. That's kinda I don't wanna say my neck of woods, but I spent some time over there too. So, yeah,
right.
seems like you're having an awesome time.
Yeah, speaking of time, found that Time magazine cover from 2006 in a box in my room.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I want you to send that to PSA. I just think every cool thing
dude,
you
I
find, I
should.
think we should just send to PSA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I will. Yeah. Yeah, I honestly forgot that I had that, like, I must have had, like, a free magazine subscription from when I was a freshman in college, and
Yeah?
I just I just held on to all that. So I had, like, all of the, just consecutive Time magazines from that period. I had Wired magazines, just like and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
all in, like, really good condition and stuff, and so, like, I was actually I actually lifted up this stack of Time magazines to just go to this part of the year because I wanted to see, like, "Oh, what would it look like in early April back then?" And the stack actually lifted up to the exact Christmas issue from 2006 that said "Person of the Year, you," and I went, "Oh my gosh, I know what this is."
Yeah,
And
it's
I
a
just like,
sign.
I froze, and I was I took a picture immediately. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
is this is
That's
incredible."
awesome. It means something, and then we're shorter, man. Yeah, it's all pointing in the right direction that, this next week is gonna be fucking awesome. Echo, how are you doing, dude?
I'm doing good, hanging out. Went out Monday, did a little bit of shopping. That's always one of the things I enjoy doing is going to GameStop when I can. Picked up a couple of the mega boxes of collector cards. I actually drove an hour to get to GameStop because it was the only location near me that had any.
Wow.
But yeah,
Wow.
I pulled a Katherine Johnson and then a John D. Rockefeller stamp card to add to my collection. So those are pretty
Sweet.
cool.
Dope.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm just hanging out. I'm excited.
Yeah, good deal. Keep an eye on the clock for us, Echo. We got a hard out with Polly being that he's Mr. Man on the town this weekend too. Everyone, well, and Chuck, poor Chuck, he's just
I feel
sitting
like
on the.
Paulie's always out on the go.
Yeah, yeah, he does. He does got a lot going on. I think Chuck's just ODing on NyQuil right now. He was posting a lot today though, which is kind of funny. He doesn't really post in Discord too much, so I guess give him some flu medicine and he's all over it. All right, so we'll kind of get going. We got a lot to go over. A lot happened last week, so we'll go to the chart.
Can I show a chart? Can I analyze a chart? I feel like it can analyze a chart, It's not a science. Can I look at the chart a little bit? Check out that chart though, huh? Can I do charts real quick? Can I do charts? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that line right there. I mean, no, we used to do charts. We used to do charts back in the day. I think it can be fun. Let me just get to the chart real quick. Wait, can I draw? Hold on. Let me see if I remember how to do this. Oh, I do. Right there. All right, look at that. Look at this. It's like jumping up and jumping down. That chart was just bullish.
And it was actually a pretty good week. So we were plus 8% for the week. It did not start off. It's actually like the weekly candle's a stick. Looks pretty nice. But it didn't start out very very great. The first couple days were just meh, and then going into Wednesday, I was feeling shitty even all through Wednesday, and then what? Oh, I guess Thursday even. The market was really doing poorly with the tariffs. tariff news, and GameStop's gonna move with the market no matter what people think. For the most part, we're gonna move with the market. So, it was shitty, and then like in a blink of an eye, everything changed, and we got that candle in after hours on Thursday, and we all kind of like knew what it was right away. But RC bought, and that was exciting, and that kind of like changed everything, and we got all kinds of kind of news from that. Friday, as a result, was really strong as well. We actually set like a lower low Friday morning, which was, I guess, a little different, but I guess not really when you're looking at what the fuck the market did. But we were up 11.33% on the day of Friday, while SPY was down 5.85%. So that's significant. Like, you don't see 5% moves over extended periods for the market like that. So for it to fall
Right.
almost 6% in a day, and to have GameStop moving up the way it did, it only could mean a couple of things, I think. So, like, either they're going with it and letting us run, because they do that sometimes, like when there's news, or RC buys, they'll let off, and I don't know, I look at it like a pressure release valve, but they let us go. Or there's a lot more buying going on right now, and GameStop is moving up because of that. So yeah, I'm looking at how bad the market is right now, and you can't really make anything out of after hours trading too much. There's really no volume with it. But if
Yeah.
the market opens like this and we can find a way to battle back and be flat or green, I don't know. It's extremely bullish. Friday was awesome. So
Yeah, and like to your point, like I mean, on Friday we went from 21.42 at open to 23.49 at close on over 20 million volume, right? And right now in overnight fake trading, it's at 21.89 on 47,000 shares of volume. That's
okay, that's not
meaningless.
bad, but it's still not. Yeah, it is
Yeah,
meaningless, but that's pretty good for fake
right.
trading. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
shit going on.
Right. So like the price is fake right now. Like
Oh yeah.
that overnight action doesn't mean anything right now. The pre-market trading tomorrow will mean something, that both the price action itself and the volume will mean something, whether it's high or low. That's what we need to pay attention to. But right now, these numbers are essentially meaningless.
We made a nice double bottom on Friday at 2073. It happened to be right off the top of that gap, so it remains a nice little,
Yeah.
15-cent gap. And then we ran and we filled the Wednesday to Thursday tariff gap. I think I'm just gonna start naming gaps, because we got the yellow gap. That's what we bounced off of, was the yellow gap, and we filled the tariff gap. And then we have the offering gap up at 26.28. That is a monster and runs 28 to 28.39. And then we have all the way up at $31.77. I think I'm going to call that the cake fucker gap. But anyways, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I don't hate Greg. We'll find out. Yeah, I don't know. There's only 1 million shares available. It's pretty interesting. Borrow rate did not go up. It's at 0.48. So it kind of took a couple steps down. Again, it's not about the actual rate. It's about the direction that it's going. So yeah, if it starts taking up again next week, it'll be on for sure. And then, IV's up 20 points too. So yeah, anyone who swung calls or had calls early Friday, you guys did really good. And if we open like we did, you're probably gonna get smoked at open. So either I would just say don't look. But I know I'm gonna, with the calls that I swung over the weekend, unless something happens between now and 9:30. So yeah, I think that's all I really have with the chart, Paulie. Anything? I know you're traveling a bit, but anything you're seeing there?
the stuff that stands out to me is that we had really encouraging price action, obviously, on Friday. The negative beta, while everything else around us is literally crashing and burning, is very encouraging, right? And you hate to see that happen to anyone who is, just genuinely trying to put their honest money into a good investment. But when you're also trying to do the same thing and you see your investment doing well, you can't help but be happy for yourself, right? And negative beta is a requirement for GameStop to decouple from the pattern that it's been stuck in, right? It's sort of a requirement for the requill, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, we
So,
broke free in 2021, and then we got back
right,
lockstep right around August 2021, and that's kind of when the volatility. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. We need to be negative beta. Doing our own damn thing is really what it
right,
comes down to.
yeah. And so one nice thing that I think has been pointed out is that GameStop adopting the Bitcoin strategy, even though at this point there's no confirmation that they've bought any yet. We don't know if they have. We also don't know if they will. We have strong reason to believe that they will,
Yeah.
but we don't know yet what the actual plan is. But the point has been brought up that this strategy really does trap anyone who is short on GameStop. Because if they want to short one or the other, then they have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And if you want to mess with the interest rates, well then fine, GameStop's got an answer for that, right? So this this is a really, really good position for GameStop to be in because they're flush with cash. They're they're trading well below fair value right now. I mean, this stock is still on sale for as far as the eye can see right now.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and so there's a lot to be encouraged about right now. So, we don't have to dwell too much on the chart itself because we're, to borrow someone else's expression, picking up pennies in front of steamrollers at this point when we're looking at even 10 or 20% moves on the stock while it's in this $20 range. Like, those are encouraging moves for sure. But in the grand scheme of things, we're still talking about a fire sale.
Oh yeah. We got $6.2 billion cash. That can kind of take us into. Well, I did want to say, kind of, I guess, with the charts is that we did see some interesting options activity on Thursday as well. Before we move
Mhm.
on to Project Rocket and everything like that, I just wanted to recognize that the $125 puts for January 2026 came off the board on Thursday,
Yeah.
and I don't know. That's interesting, Paul. You've had a little bit experience with why that might have occurred. It was a big thing. I mean, it was about 7,200 contracts that were out there, and deep, deep in the money puts that were trading for, right now they're $101. So $10,100 for one contract. So it's not like it's some cheap play. In the past, what could have caused that, Paulie?
Yeah, so I've have firsthand experience with this because back in last summer, and we've talked about this on the show before, but as a recap for anyone who didn't hear that episode, the strategy there is if you're selling a deep in the money put, you are bullish on the stock and you expect it to go up. Now, if the stock goes down even a few dollars since that put has been opened, then the counterparty may choose to exercise that put and assign you the shares because they have won the battle, but they're not going to win the war. And that's essentially their way of saying, "Here, go ahead and take these shares." That's their way of taking profit on that particular trade. And you have essentially, lowered your cost basis on those shares relative to where it was trading at the time that you opened the trade, but you paid a higher price for them relative to when they were exercised. So, there's a little bit of a delta there where the whoever sold you the put, the market maker, or whoever you sold the put to, the market maker, is essentially they're capturing that delta. That's their profit.
Yeah.
But they're also picking up pennies in front of steamrollers essentially, but they're basically saying, well, we're expecting a bull run here, and we're going to liquidate this options chain before that happens because it's a risk management strategy. And so
Yeah.
back in late August, this exact same thing happened. There were hundreds of puts that just were exercised overnight, and I was holding 2 of those. I had one in a cash account and one in, I think it was my IRA. And when that happened to me, because it happened in 2 different accounts, I was like, "Man, that's weird." So when I went and looked at the chain, I was like, "Wait, they all went away." And so that's when I did some digging on it. And so then this same thing, I guess, happened on Thursday. And so, of course, lo and behold, there comes the big run on Thursday. And so that was market makers anticipating the run.
Yeah, always, right? They
Yeah.
seem to know. So yeah, they're
Mhm.
pulling they're kind of like a lot of people had assumed. So these puts started coming in, like you said, they're big kind of like earlier after June and stuff, but they started coming in big again in, I'd say, the beginning of November. I'm looking at the 90-day chart here, and they were coming in heavy between November and this January 9th. It was whatever when Carter, whatever happened on January 9th, everything went to shit then. That's also when the 125 stopped showing up as much. They would pop up every now and then, but nowhere near as much until Thursday. And then they all just they were gone. The tinfoil around those things, because I don't know who it is. I tend to think everything's kitty, but these probably weren't kitty. But they've been building, so long, and they kind of stopped as soon as we started selling off. So the thought is that maybe they were used to put a lid on things, just another way to fuck with the price. XRT's on Reg Show. Oh god, if XRT comes off Reg Show tomorrow, guys, holy shit. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be out there. I'm gonna be so hyped up, it's not even gonna be funny.
You're gonna be setting your 3-day
Oh, it's
timer.
on. It is so on. Um, yeah. So anyways, it could be, if that's what they were, that they were, keeping a lid on things for us, for them, for whoever. They're pulling that off now. So I don't know. It was interesting. We did see a bunch of 85s come in for the same expiration, January 2026, and then there was some more activity on them on Friday. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. No one really knows, but it was a significant change there, and we did run pretty hard right after that. So maybe there's more coming. We'll move on then, because that was just kind of like the chart and everything, but really what was driving it, well, I thought it might drive it, but what we found out is that, the end of a bond offering doesn't necessarily mean bullish things for the chart. GameStop didn't really do anything too bullish off of the news, but there's a lot of cool things that we found out. So it was a 1.3 billion bond offering. Do you remember how long it lasted, Polly? Was it like, oh, it was the day after earnings, so it only lasted like 4 or 5 days, I think. 4 trading days probably.
Yeah, so yeah, it was announced the day after earnings. So that was announced after market on the 26th, and it was priced in the 1 to 4 p.m. period on the 27th. So using the VWAP during that pricing, that price point.
Yeah.
Then there
And that's where
was
they hammered us right before
so
that.
then the closing period would have been Friday, Monday, Tuesday. So they had a 3 business day closing window.
Okay. So it's just good to note,
Yeah.
for the future because I have a feeling we're gonna
Yeah.
probably be seeing
Uh,
more of
y
these.
Most likely, yeah. Yeah, and that felt like a pretty quick closing window just based on the research that I've done. That that feels like about as quick as you're going to do a bond offering,
Nice.
which tells me a couple things. They knew what they were doing. They they worked with people who were experienced on both ends, and also there was significant demand for
Yeah.
this. There were like not only was there significant demand, but the green shoe option was exercised up front. Nobody waited 13 days to say, I want to give you 200 million extra dollars. They had that extra 200 million dollars on April 1st. So I think that's significant.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah.
were like, "Yeah, give us all of it. This is a deal."
Hmm.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
sold to, TD. It's a bank out of Canada. So I don't know, it's interesting because RC had just moved all of his shares to Canada, and then we had more RC.
Well, and so all that really means is that the way that that is written is what we see on the indenture, which is the document that shows the terms of the note, is we see GameStop's agreement with the
Yeah,
underwriter essentially.
yeah,
And then the underwriter is the one that sells the notes to whatever institutions or counterparties are actually the ones going to be holding those. So because it is a private offering, we don't actually get to see the identities of the ones holding those. And then the underwriter is the one that's actually collecting the spread
yeah.
between, what they give GameStop money for and what they sell
Well, we would get
to
to
people. So,
see.
they're making money on
Oh, yeah, we
those.
would get to see if whoever ends up with those shares, whoever got the bonds, and say we get over $30 and they end up exercising and GameStop determines that they're gonna let them have shares instead of cash, which is everyone says that's how it goes, so I don't know, though. I don't have experience
Right.
in it.
Yeah.
So make
So when we get to a point where the conversion becomes relevant and we start to see
yeah,
filings, then it may become clear who held
yeah.
those bonds. But until then, it's all speculation, I
Yeah,
think.
unless they drop a filing for
Yeah.
no reason like Ali Ehad Turker. I'm just gonna say, "What's up, bro?" Good yeah,
Right.
we got that I think it was Monday
Yeah.
morning. That was pretty cool. He just dropped a filing. He didn't need to. It wasn't under 5%.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah. Yeah, but as far as anyone holding those convertible bonds go, if they do file anything regarding GameStop, their position on the bonds is completely separate and irrelevant from their position in GameStop because these are unregistered securities.
Yeah, and yeah, until they
So
get
they
yeah.
could they could be holding a bond that is worth 200 million shares of GameStop, and it doesn't matter because
Yeah.
these are unregistered securities until it converts.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So, we may never
Yeah,
know
it
who it
is
is.
really cool because if someone's trying to get over 5% and they're trying to do it stealthily, then the convertible bonds are a really great way to do it.
Oh, yeah, and if they're confident and very bullish, on GameStop, which I think if you're buying those bonds, you're pretty bullish on GameStop. Uh,
Yeah.
that's a very cool way to do it. So we don't know who it is. It could be anyone. We might not ever find out who it is, but we did find some cool shit. Actually, I say we. Paulie found some cool shit. I like it. Like Echo Chamber is breaking news now and shit. But go ahead. When you're digging through the filings, what'd you find there, Paulie?
So I was looking at the attachments, and And so you actually had noticed the name of the counterparty on the indenture, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go look at these attachments, and then I saw the file, and I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that's there's a word in there. And so it's WK Project Rocket,
Yeah.
and then I was like, there's no way. And so then I double checked it, I triple checked it, and then it's just like, oh my gosh, this is nuts.
Yeah.
And then it's just like I was like, this okay, I guess I got to put this out there. And so and yeah, that just it took off, excuse the expression, like a rocket,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Everyone saw
just
it. It's cool.
that yeah, just like wildfire through the community. And I I didn't adjust my notifications. I probably should have.
Oh yeah, there comes a point where you miss it. You start missing them all. And I've
Yeah.
turned off, yeah, you gotta turn off your Twitter notifications, bro. Like your phone will run out of battery fast if you just have push notifications on. So yeah, yeah, I hear you. I feel you.
And I don't have them on for things like likes or retweets or anything like that,
Yeah.
but I think it got to the point where I seriously considered muting that one, but
Yeah.
it wasn't quite as bad as the one that got 2,000,000 views because of a controversial officiating call at the end of the Purdue-Houston game, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It got some attention. There was Bitcoin like
Yeah.
magazines talking about it. It was everywhere immediately because it's a fucking cool name for our company to put into the filing for our plan for the
Yes.
future. Like, how cool is that shit? So that's definitely a nod to us for sure.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that about our
Yeah,
company.
it was quite evocative for them to do that. And they knew exactly what they were doing. Very, very cool. Love that they did it. And
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it for a while. Like, what else could that possibly mean? And then, Swami from our Discord noticed as well. I don't know if we're quite ready to move on to. Are we ready to move on to Ryan Cohen's 13D? Because
Yeah, I'm
I
pretty
feel like this
much
kind of ties in.
yeah, I think I'm good with the offering. It's done. We've been through it. We
Yeah,
now know that well, at least the initial news led to a fucking like top tier rug. So be ready in the future for that. We got this one done in three business days about, and the news was not that bullish after. Just take note, everybody. We need to remember this shit. So we know how to
yeah.
like play it going forward. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, and so Swami just I think it was yesterday, took note that in Ryan Cohen's 13D, which we got on Thursday, there was a note which, everybody saw, but when
Yeah.
he made this note yesterday, he noticed that the 22,340,018 shares in the margin account represents 4.996% of the total shares outstanding, which is just under 5%. It's
Yeah.
also it's right around a $500 million position. There's
Yeah. So hold on.
there's other there's other things. Yeah,
Let me
yeah, go
let
for
me take a
that.
step back just real quick because
Yeah.
because we haven't really so on Thursday after the crazy tariff news and it was just terrible day. I just been arguing. Fuck. Talk about muting a post. I was at that point with
Mhm.
a post of my own, but not for good reasons. So it was just shit. And then the candle came out. RC bought 500,000 shares of GameStop, about $10 million. That is very standard for Ryan Cohen since 2021. Those last three buys now have all been $10 million, depending on the price. But I mean, it's almost the same as the price was in June as well. And we got very nice price action as a result. He told us immediately. We got the filing immediately. It was interesting because it wasn't a Form 4. It was a 13D. And then in that 13D was a very, I feel, important note. And this is what you're talking about, Paulie, is that he put more than half of his position, 22,000 shares, no, sorry, 22 million shares into a
Mhm.
margin account that was at about 2150 or whatever the price was. That's almost $500 million. So he now put $500 million worth of his company. While we know he owns Apple, what we think. We know he had $1 billion in Baba, whatever. That's all kind of a private investment, though. We don't see filings for those guys. He chose in a very public filing to put $500 million and more than half of his position into a margin account. So super bullish, super interesting. Like he's got, it's just great. Whatever. He would have been eaten alive, by the way, or Super Stonk 2021. Him putting his shares in a margin account is like against all of their rules and regulations. So I don't know. Times are changing. Anyways, go ahead, Paulie. Sorry.
Oh, that's a really really great summary of all that too. And so that I think is just an interesting coincidence on the 5% as well. And so, Swami said, that looks like a challenge to me. And so I said, Everything about that filing looked like an invitation to me."
Yeah.
You noted, Fitzy, that he could have done a Form 4, and I think that's true too. I don't know if there are any other logistical or legal reasons why he would need to file a 13D instead of a Form 4 right now. I mean, every other filing until his filing in January of this year, since December of 2020, every other filing that he's done has been a Form 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every single one since December 18th, 2020 has been a Form 4.
Yeah. And
So,
I mean, so we were talking about it a little bit.
yeah.
Why would someone do a 13D
Mhm.
versus a Form 4? Because like you had said, it fills the same requirement. So it's a
Yeah.
choice. He made a choice to do this 13D is kind of what it seems, unless well, how did you say it's intent? How did you say that, Paulie?
Yeah, so the difference between a 13G and a 13D is the difference between being a passive investor and an active investor. It is intent. And so a 13G, which is what Keith Gill filed with Chewy, is just a passive investor with over 5%. That's what you file if you have no intent to influence the company or its decisions. A 13D is filed if you do have intent to influence the company and its decisions. And obviously Ryan Cohen has intent to influence the company and its decisions. If he didn't, we'd have bigger problems, right?
Yeah,
Like as the CEO, I sure would hope that he has intent to influence the company and its decisions.
for sure.
So so if he's going to file a 13 anything, it better be a 13D. Now a
Yeah, that would
Form
be.
4,
I
yeah.
could imagine the
Yeah, and
FUD.
yeah, right, right, yeah. If he filed a 13G, then that would signal all sorts of fire and brimstone.
Yeah,
Um, but a Form 4 and its counterpart, the Form 3, are for insiders. The Form 3 we got from Nat Turner, after Thanksgiving because he was a new insider and you have to file an initial disclosure of your position, and so he filed an initial disclosure of 0 shares, and so that form came late.
yeah,
There's all sorts of speculation on why that could be,
yeah. Maybe.
but yeah, but when you become an insider, you have to file a Form 3 first, and then after that, every subsequent filing is a Form 4. So, as far as I can tell, all of the requirements that you would need to file a Form 4 for are satisfied by filing a Form 13 because you're disclosing all of the same information in it.
Yeah,
So, as far as I can tell, the 13D is a deliberate decision because it's a signal of some sort. It's a message. It signals intent.
yeah,
I think he could probably put the same things in the notes, probably could say the same things about, "Yeah, we put this stuff in a margin account," probably could say, you know, I don't obviously know, I've never filled out any of these forms, but I've looked at plenty of them, and I know that a lot of them say things in the notes. So, as far as I can tell, this was probably just a decision on his part. We're going to do these as a 13D. Now, I know that yesterday I looked at it on my chart as well. The difference between when he did his first filing this year and when he did his most recent one. I'm going to pull up TradingView again real quick. So he did his first one on January 31st, did his
Yeah.
most recent one on April 3rd. That is 62 days, 43 trading days. But the days between the buys or the transactions, that would be January 29th to April 3rd. That's 45 trading days. So, I don't know that necessarily means anything, but it could be.
Yeah. You said
45 is a number that pops up sometimes. So,
yeah, and with a lot of different things, and sometimes with teas
mhm,
or you said it signals intent.
right.
I think that's what he's doing, and I think he wanted to make sure to let us know he's not done. And I think
Yes.
the biggest part was that 22 million shares being put into a margin account. So that means, I looked it up. That means that if he were, typical 50% margin account, and who knows what they allow with GameStop, he could be using that money to buy more GameStop. I'm sure with who he is and how much money he has, he could probably get a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Now, it's important to note that the insider trading policy recent changes allows insiders, officers, directors to pledge up to 50% of their position as collateral, which means that although over 50% of his position is in that margin account, he can't use all of those shares as collateral per se. They
Okay.
can be in that account, but he can't use all of that as collateral.
All right. And so, in the investor relations policy, the changes to that policy back in December 2023, I think, is what led to us here. So RC took over as well, not for long was June 2023. That was last, and then he bought. And then he took over as CEO in September 2023. And then in December 2023, the investment policy was written basically where RC can do whatever the hell he wants, but it also made a very specific point to say that he could invest his money in the company's investments, the company like GameStop. So like he could be just needing some liquidity. I don't know if I always use those terms right, but like
Yeah,
maybe
I think my understanding of that was that it meant that he and GameStop could invest in the same things.
yeah. Okay, but like my point was, and then so like that wouldn't if it's a distinction. I see what you're saying, but maybe GameStop is going with something and they're looking to get something and RC wants to get in on that deal. And he's putting up $500 million of his shares to get I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. There's all kinds of TikTok tin out there. I like saying TikTok tin. And it's $50 billion for the US branch is what I heard. So it's not like a small chunk of change to even be considered in this mix. We know Bezos is talking about it. But I don't know. We got a good amount of money ourselves. It would be pretty difficult to do it all by ourselves, but maybe we're
Yeah.
trying to put together a big chunk of cash here right now, and RC is getting in on the action too. Or
Mhm.
maybe he's buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, and so the things that stood out to me about that filing are that, 1, it was for 500,000 shares, which is obviously a lot of shares, but for him, it's not a lot. But it was also the exact amount of shares that uh, who was it that noticed that? I wanna give him credit, but I don't recall who noticed it initially. It's not in my notes, but I know that someone had recognized that it was the exact amount of shares that he made as his final buy when he was building his 9,001,000 share position back in December 2020.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, so since that is the case, what I think would be very interesting is if we start seeing him start going in like reverse on that position, adding to it because we know what some of his other final transactions were. So if we start seeing him add, like 256,000 shares
Yeah.
on top of that, because his last one before the 500,000 was, yeah, 256,089. So if that's the next one, then that would be a pretty clear signal. But also like the 500,000 on its own is pretty telling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But
it's another 5 for one, by the way.
yeah, yeah. But also him doing that is an official signal that the insider buying window is open.
Yeah.
And so without him even having a conversation with any other insiders, that's a pretty clear like, hey, the window's open. So if you're gonna get some, you can get some. And so while 500,000 shares is a substantial amount to most of us, that's not a lot to people with hundreds of millions of dollars or even billions of dollars. That's only quote only
Yeah.
about 11, $10.7 million worth of shares. So if he's trying to send a signal to the rest of the board or anyone else that, hey, get in while the going's good, that's a pretty good way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Without crossing any lines or colluding or trying to say, "Hey, let's all buy right now." Like, that's totally above board, submitting an SEC filing is the cleanest way to do that.
Yeah. I imagine he locked Nat in a room somewhere and said, "Bro, it's been like 6 months now. You haven't bought shit. The window's open.
Right.
Nat needs to buy in. Who
Yeah.
knows? RC has well, okay, so he needs just under 7.41 million shares to get himself to 10%. I think it's 7.38 million is needed. So look, if RC is buying in, we're gonna see it. That's some big numbers, and it's something we haven't
Yeah.
seen RC buy since before the January 2021 run, and we all think that those big buys led to that run. So we'll know if RC is buying in, but LC hasn't bought since July. I think Alan, I don't know how to say his name. Anyways, Tal. Damn, I screwed that one up bad. Anyways, maybe I'll editing it incorrectly. He hasn't bought in a while either. I want to say the last time he bought was June 2023 with RC. So, it's been really quiet on the insider front when it comes to buying. There's a lot of tinfoil around that. I don't know. I don't know. If they're gonna buy
Mhm.
something, maybe they are still gonna buy something. So maybe just because RC bought, I'm sure there's a way they could be getting ready to acquire something. They might just need to wait a couple more months. Who knows? I don't know. You know
Yeah.
anything about all that? We're running kind of, low on time, and we still got a little bit to go over. But yeah, anything else around that?
Well, and just the only other thing I wanna kinda continue going down that path with on it because I do think that that filing sent a specific message is that if it was an invitation to others to follow suit, it's not just insiders who see that, right? And if it's a cat signal, then now would be a pretty good time for Keith Gill to respond to the call.
Yeah,
And we know that there's the meme of Star Lord and Thor, having that conversation. We should fight one another for the honor of leadership, right?
yeah,
Should fight one another for the honor of leadership.
Not necessary.
There shall be no knifing one another. Everybody knows who's in charge.
Me.
Right? Yes, you. Of course. Of course.
And if you go back and look at that meme, there is another one of the Guardians of the Galaxy standing in between them as they are having that conversation.
Yeah.
Do you know who it is?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's Project Rocket.
Yeah, it's Rocket,
Yeah.
right? And then Game Informer just 2 days ago put out an opinion piece on Marvel Rivals, how it's winning for the same reasons the early Marvel Comic Universe movies were such hits, that the game is getting the characters right. And then it posted an image of a bunch of Marvel's characters toasting with what looks like, like blue mimosas or something. I don't know. And in the center of the picture is Rocket.
Yeah.
And
I like
yeah,
it.
and so like so I've got this little bit of theory, and back on the old investor relations page, Rocket Raccoon was right in the middle of that old image as well, from the cover of that image, and that came from issue number 337, which was for July 2021. But that digital cover for that issue was released on June 13th of 2021.
Okay. Which was also
Yeah,
what
that
happened on June 13th?
yeah,
I know you know.
right. Yeah, so June 13th, we know, was that in 2021, it wouldn't have been relevant yet, but that later became the day of one of Ryan Cohen's Form 4s.
Yeah.
And then it became so that was in 2023, and then in 2024, it was Roaring Kitty's Last Yellow Update.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So yeah, and then, we got Rocket on that cover. So, if we're looking for alternate meanings here, and then also just I was looking for, is there a reason why WK is at the beginning of that file name? Because Project Rocket, like, that's
Yeah.
obvious, like, those are clear words, but what could WK mean? Well, there are 2 creators for the character Rocket Raccoon from the original comics for Guardians of the Galaxy, and those are Bill Mantlo and Keith Griffin. I
Okay.
think it's funny that one
Yeah.
of them is Keith, right?
Oh yeah.
And Bill is just short for
William.
William.
That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
so
Or it could be weak.
W and K. Yeah, it could be week, like the, weeklies,
Yeah.
so
Or maybe next week. Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah.
kinda led me to the last thing like that on my list was we got some activity from the kitty, which that hadn't happened since so on Reddit, Roaring Kitty, his Reddit account got 2 badges, one for signing up for a new community, and that badge, by the
Mhm.
way, was a box being opened.
Who's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
That's called Newcomer, so we don't know what community he signed up to. And then we got the hometown hero as well, and I'm not sure where that one came from. So we got activity from
Yeah.
Kitty, and he knows he knows we're watching this. The last time we got activity was October 28th, and that was the day before we got the Kitty filing. Well, drop the dog, right? Like that's when we got the filing that he was done with Chewy. So that was Friday. I think it was Friday. That was yes, new news. Anyways, talk about echo chamber breaking. Well, I was the first. We were the first one on Twitter with that. Part 14 at PTOL. Anyways, I'll tag him. He sent me a quick little DM. So I love that shit. My DMs are open, y'all. If you got some good tin and you think it's good, send it to me. If it works out, what I did is I took it back to the echo chamber. We verified that was really his activity, and then we sent that shit out. So it was awesome. That shit took off. Everyone, you know, Kitty's active again. We got the Run Lola Run like right before he came back, and we've all been watching, waiting to see because likes are gone on Twitter. So there's gonna have to be another way you can talk to us.
Mhm.
So maybe that was it. We didn't get our tweet tonight. That's a bummer. But yeah, that's exciting. There's some possibility that he was active on stock twits. It's a trust me, bro. But I got a heads up from Lord here on that one. So yeah, kitty activity just it's good shit. Some of the other tinfoil just I don't know. GameStop did an April Fool's joke that was pretty funny. They basically said Greg is going to be doing all of their artwork going forward for their used games. So, yeah, it was funny, but they put a picture of who Greg is supposedly is at work at GameStop, and we all think everything's kitty, but man, there was some compelling evidence that it was like Frecklegate or I don't know, like there's a freckle that Kitty has, and it matched that picture pretty perfectly. Who knows? GameStop might be really just good at trolling us. We know Toast is their social media guy, and he's definitely from the community, so he knows how to fuck with us. I was like, oh, his arm's pretty swole. That can't, but now we started seeing some pictures of Kitty doing that marathon, and man, Kitty was pretty swole too. So I don't know. I've talked shit about the Greg 10 forever. He's not given us any like info ahead of time. It's always been something that one of us could have done, and I'm talking about Greg with like the confirmation that people get from his Twitter that he is Kitty or someone in the know. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely I'd be willing to, and actually I'd be pretty happy to say I was wrong about that. I think it would be pretty fucking cool if Kitty was Greg. That'd be pretty awesome that he did that,
Right.
by the way. And that if this was a signal, tinfoil alert, that he was going to be part of the board or involved or working with GameStop in some way. So I don't know. You have
Yeah,
anything with
which
that there?
by the way is like I've been saying for at least I don't know 6 or 8 months that that is the best case scenario that would basically be the like super hyper ultra bull never sell your shares type scenario like that is the dream.
Yeah.
Right, like,
Oh yeah.
that's the we really are challenging Warren Buffett to a thumb war thing, like, y okay, you bought the bottom, and you can use your shares as collateral instead of selling them,
Yeah.
like, that's the type of dream scenario that would be.
It would be amazing to have Kitty actually join GameStop after all this time. It would be the coolest
Yeah,
end to the story, as long as, we rock it too. Project
yeah,
Rocket.
I'd love to see him join the board and be part of the investment committee and just, put him and Ryan Cohen together and have them just take over the world, man.
Yeah, they really are two amazing investors. You can say what you want, but Ryan Cohen's cost basis for GameStop is, I think even after this purchase, at 21.50, his average is like $2.65. That's a come up.
It's nuts.
That is not on accident. And Roaring Kitty started this thing out, I don't know, $50,000. I think it's more than that a little bit, but uh,
53.
53. And last time we saw he had a 250 million position in GameStop and then Chewy, and then we don't know what he's got now on top of whatever else. So, these are two amazing investors that it would be so cool to get them together and just go watch them go to work, man. That would be that'd be it. That'd be the dream right there. And we're in on it from the start. So,
Yeah.
all right. I know you got
Yeah.
a bit of a hard out here, Polly.
Yeah, I do. Also wanna acknowledge just, shout out to Sky Brockmuller for
Oh yeah.
discovering yesterday that Roaring Kitty's YouTube channel was started 10 years to the day before Ryan Cohen's 13D was just filed, so that feels meaningful. So, nice work on that. Maybe Reese Politics will finally unblock him for making that discovery.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. He's been campaigning. He still hasn't gotten unblocked yet. It's kind of funny at
I
this
don't know,
point.
I feel
It's
yeah,
worth it.
it's been a really funny shtick, but I feel like that might be worthy of getting the unblock.
We'll see if we can get it to happen when I do the show post. I'll
Yeah,
ask Reese there. I'll tag him.
That was pretty good detective work.
Yeah, so that's cool. Shout out to Back to Work is his name, and he basically just said he listens to us as he drives to work every day. So that's cool. I like that shit. It's cool hearing how people listen to us. Please reach out. Let us know how you're doing it. How you consume the echo chamber. I don't know. That's a little weird. Also, I guess my last note is that it's never too late to turn bullish on GME. It's a party over here, y'all. You could have been, on the outside the last 4 years, but we don't care. I don't want to speak for everybody. I know I don't care. I know if you're one of RC's children, if you want to buy GameStop, come on in. Like, it's never too late. And I know that there are some people. I'm getting some DMs of folks who you wouldn't think are buying GameStop or are fucking buying GameStop.
Yeah, and I think the same can really be said of Bitcoin too. Like I'm getting questions from folks like, "Hey, I've got GameStop. I want to get into Bitcoin too. Like, how do I start? How do I get off of zero?" And the same is exactly true. Like, it's never too late to start. You can just get off of zero, get started. We're going to go into detail on Bitcoin, what it
Yeah.
means for GameStop in hopefully our next episode.
Yeah.
We wanna do that justice, and so we've got some special guests coming on the show for that, and we couldn't do that tonight, and so we're gonna do that in hopefully next week's episode. But don't FOMO into anything is gonna be my caution, but also at the same time, just don't be afraid to get off of 0. It never hurts to just throw $5 at something and just get started, and
Yep.
there's so many different ways to get into it, and you can always change your mind in terms of where you're storing your Bitcoin, what broker you're using, if you're using a broker, whether you're putting it into cold storage, whether you're using a wallet, what all these terms mean, we can get into all that later, but just if you feel like you need to get started and you wanna get off of 0, that's totally cool. We can get into that conversation and hopefully educate some folks on that. But, we just want you to know that, like, we hear you, we're totally aware of people out there that have those concerns, and we wanna hopefully guide people in the right direction on that, and also make sure that people are, um just properly oriented on all of that and not taken advantage of because there's a lot of different schools of thought on it as well as plenty of people who will take advantage of you and try to point you toward
Yes.
meme coins or things that will not store any value, and so we want to make sure that we channel that conversation in a productive manner. So
Yeah. And we're gonna
yeah,
have
there's so much to cover there.
yeah, and we were like you were saying, we were gonna do the episode tonight. We have our guests lined up. We won't, just because things happen, but we want to be at full strength. We want to get Chuck in here. We want to have everyone involved, in front of their desks so we can, put out a good episode for everyone. The last week's episode did really well. So people are definitely interested in what's going on with this Bitcoin strategy and even how MSTR does it. So, we got a lot to go over and we want to make sure you guys are all aware because I need to learn about this shit too. So, okay, cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Polly, thank you for calling in from Texas. Echo, thanks for hanging out. Chuck, bro, I hope you feel better, man. And we'll have you back here next week. But yeah, thanks everyone for checking out the show. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, y'all.
I thought I was Chuck.
I'll go.
Am
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
I Chuck? How does it go? Am I
Am I Chuck?
Are we all Chuck?
Are we all Chuck?
Today we are.
All the crooked hedge funds meet
All the big dogs on Wall Street. The SEC gets on the line. Stop the buying, we'll say we're blind. When the brokers froze, the game didn't